So I was asked to comment on the recent sentencing on the chair girl in Toronto. That's a girl who threw a chair out of a balcony that landed on the street. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. There was an interview done in which the mayor of Toronto made some comments about the sentencing, and the newscaster made his own personal views known to the public. So we're going to watch that video and we're going to look at how some of those comments are appropriate and inappropriate, especially given that it's the mayor of Toronto making comments about a sentence passed by a judge. Okay, so let's look at the video. We'll start off.
Questions. I got to ask you about Chair Girl. I think this story continues to frustrate and infuriate people online. A lot of outrage. I would consider myself amongst that group.
Okay, first and foremost, here we have a newscaster who's interviewing a mayor, and he's expressing his own views about how he's frustrated at the sentencing of this chair girl, as they call her. Whether or not that's appropriate, I leave that up to the news channel, obviously. He's a newscaster. He should simply be getting the views of the mayor with respect to what's transpired rather than expressing his own views. That's where he should be leaving it at. But anyway, let's move on to the real issue, which is the mayor's comments about the sentencing.
The sentence came down yesterday, 150 hours of community service, a $2,000 fine. Frankly, a joke of a sentence. I mean,
here again, you have a newscaster classifying or characterizing a sentence passed by a judge as a joke of a sentence. That is an inappropriate classification. It should not be characterized as such. We've appointed judges to positions, and they make a ruling about the events that have transpired and the sentence. And when a judge says that this sentence is appropriate, that is an appropriate sentence. And to call it a joke, it's an opinion, obviously, but for a newscaster to express that opinion, I think it's pretty problematic. But let's now move on to hopefully what the mayor has to say about this.
She could have killed somebody. She didn't, thankfully. What type of deterrent is this for other, narcissistic, navel-gazing lunatics, frankly, like her that are just trying to go?
Again, here, you have a newscaster calling this chair girl a lunatic. How and why he characterizes her as such, again, is problematic. You have no idea with respect to her background, and to characterize her in that fashion, extremely inappropriate.
Viral and get famous, which she has successfully done.
It's not a deterrent, and I think the sentencing demonstrates a kind of an out-of-touch, aspect of the justice system from time to time that concerns me.
Okay, so here we have now the mayor of Toronto saying that the sentencing demonstrated out of touch with what the community wants in terms of punishment that should be vetted out to people who have been found guilty. But you have to remember, again, the judge passed a sentence, and that is an order. Once the judge has made an order, that is final, except unless somebody appeals that order. And for a mayor of Toronto to say that somehow this sentence is not resonating with the community, to a defense lawyer such as myself or the defense lawyer for this lady, it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant what the mayor has to say. It's irrelevant what the prime minister has to say. Not that the prime minister's commented on that. What's relevant and important is what a judge said. And let's listen on more.
Greatly, and that I apply that as well to some of the bail and sentencing things we see elsewhere. But it is.
And here, he talks about the disconnect between bail and sentencing. Perhaps the mayor is not aware, in fact, that there is currently a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the government of Canada because of the bail conditions. The bail conditions are far from appropriate. The way the bail system is being run has, in fact, led to the government being sued in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit because people are being detained needlessly, unnecessarily, and the entire system is being revamped. So for the mayor to say, look, that the system is out of touch, yes, I agree, it's out of touch, but it's not in line with what he's saying. It's out of touch in the sense that innocent people are detained, held over in custody, and they're held in jails when they ought to have been released. And what he's expressing is a very popular view, but not a realistic view of what's happening in the legal system.
I mean, this is a person who even afterwards, it seems, didn't learn any lessons, which sort of proves the point that it's not only a deterrent, not a deterrent to her, but it won't be to other people if you can see that somebody kind of walks out and immediately proceeds to go back to social media and look like they're celebrating.
Well, here he says, look, the person walks out and immediately walks out, and there's no impact on her. This case lasted over 6 months, and over those 6 months, this young person, well, she was an adult, 19 at the time. She was facing a criminal charge where she could have potentially gone to jail. And that stress in itself is a considerable stress recognized by the courts in itself. That if somebody's facing a criminal charge, that in itself causes duress and emotional turmoil. And whether or not this person had to seek counseling, therapy, and to address all these concerns is something that's left completely unaddressed.
I mean, this behavior is representative of something that has to be, in the strongest possible terms, seen to be absolutely unacceptable. It's just criminal behavior, is what it is, and it put people's lives at risk. I mean, the real luck we had here wasn't so much that she didn't go to jail. She should have gone to jail. She should have gone to jail for enough time to really send a message to her.
Well, hearing a pause again here, because now you have a mayor of Toronto saying that this girl should have gone to jail, and he says this twice. She should have gone to jail. But we have a judge who reviewed all the evidence that came before her. It was Justice Mara Green, and so the judge looked at not only the circumstance of the events that took place on that particular day, but probably had a whole slew of evidence in front of her about the emotional, psychological well-being of this person, whether she's taken counseling, therapy, whether she had other issues in her life. So the judge does a global appreciation of a person's particular circumstances and not merely just get up there and start saying, look, this is a sentence that's not appropriate, she should go to jail. These kind of statements are more appropriate for a politician, not for a judge. And in fact, what we have here is a politician who's simply pandering to the public by saying, look, she should have gone to jail, and then appealing to the mass of individuals who are of the view that, yes, she should have been incarcerated. But that's not how the law works. The law does not appeal to mass opinion. Otherwise, everybody who is in these circumstances would be going to jail. There's particular circumstances one has to deal with, and that's what her lawyer would have dealt with, and that's what the judge had to hear. And for the mayor to say, look, she should have gone to jail, is inappropriate.
And everybody else. But the real luck here was that no one was killed or injured. I mean, that was an incredible thing that was, that happened. And thank goodness for that. So I don't know. I mean, what can you do? I mean, judges have their job to do, and I guess they do their best in the circumstances. But this was one where I think the mark was missed.
So here again, the mayor expresses clearly what he thinks. He thinks the judge got it wrong. Oh, as a mayor of Toronto, you can express your personal view, and then he says, what can we do? Well, he really can't do much because the law says that the judge makes a decision about the sentence, and the judge has made a decision. And unless the Crown appeals that sentence, saying that it's inappropriate and goes to a higher judge, that is the appropriate position. At this point in time, that is the law. And for somebody who is in that particular circumstance to be given that punishment is what the end result is going to be. And if you want to change that stuff, it's not by being a mayor. If the mayor really wants to change this, then he should go and run for an MP, go to Parliament, and start making new laws about this. But the judge has acted well within her purview. She's acted within the rules and laws, and I don't expect anybody to be appealing this sentence.
Person should have spent a period of time in custody just to absolutely send across the message that this is unacceptable. And
here again, I mean, it's the mayor's focus is about putting this girl in jail to send a message that nobody should be doing that. What he's missing here is clearly that there's two parts to any sentencing principle. Not only a message being sent to the community, but you have to look at the personal circumstances of the individual who is being sentenced. And this young person or girl was not a previous offender, had no criminal record. Her lawyer commented on some of that stuff. She had some issues, those were addressed, and the judge obviously looked at all of that and kept that in mind.
I think as well, the idea the Crown had to keep her off social media for, I would have said 5 years, but I forget the time that was being discussed. That was a good idea too that was not taken up. So we are where we are.
Well, he ends it with where we are, meaning that there's going to be no appeal. Well, not that the mayor can never file an appeal. That's entirely up to the Crowns. And so when you know in fact that there's a sentence that's been passed by a judge, and when you know that it's not going to be appealed, you know it's a final sentence. That is the final judgment of the court. And unless you're going to challenge that, there's no point in commenting about how the judge missed the mark, because she didn't miss the mark. And any lawyer would tell you that if a judge makes a statement in respect to what a sentence should be, that becomes an order. That is the order, and that can't be challenged except unless through the court system. If it's not being challenged, there's nothing unfair about it. There's nothing improper about it. It doesn't matter what the public wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And her social media is infuriating this morning. It's her celebrating and having a good time like nothing happened. And my concern here is not necessarily this story, because again, tragedy was avoided, thankfully, but it's the next time, because of this slap on the wrist, the next time you and I are going to be talking about this, it could be someone trying to go viral who does end up killing somebody, and that's the whole problem with this. I guess we've got to count on karma when the justice system fails us. Last
Again, so now even the newscaster makes a final statement that the justice system failed us. Well, it's not a failure of a justice system. It's a failure for both the mayor and the newscaster to appreciate that the judge has done what is right.